I just heard these words, humility and teachability, so I jumped up to find out what is that all about, because obviously there must be a little message there that would excite me and benefit me, as well as now I see it could help many others as well, so that's always fun. So I want to just share about humility and teachability because it's all wrapped up in a hunger to learn and to grow. So when we have a hunger to learn and grow, it's going to require a position, hi Sister Grace, a position of humility and teachability in order for that to happen, for us to actually learn new things, hi, and to be able to grow in our lives, because we should always want and be hungry for growth and to stretch out and enlarge our coasts and take territory and to conquer new things, and that's the way we stay fully alive. When we have no hunger to learn, no hunger to grow, no desire to invest in ourselves and to pay the price to grow, because there is a price to pay, not just financially, but in time, in energy, in kind of like pulling your hair out sometimes, because things require something from us in order to break free. I was thinking about if you took a little walnut, for example, that falls from the tree, that could be another walnut tree. In order for that walnut to become a tree, it's got to do a whole lot of metamorphosis in there and just break out of that husk, that shell, that hard walnut shell that takes us a hammer to break through it. It's got to break free from that in order to be able to get into the soil and then stretch out and do a lot of other inner workings for that seed then to start becoming a tree. And in our own personal lives, whichever areas that we desire to grow in, hopefully spiritually we all have a hunger to grow in, but physically, emotionally, in all kinds of ways, there needs to be this hunger in us that we desire and crave, if you will, to grow and expand and increase, not only for our own benefit, but hopefully so that we can be a benefit to many others, because that's where we come fully alive, when everything we do is just not for us, but it's so that we can be a greater influencer in the world around us. So I started looking then at this two words that I got when I woke up this morning, humility and teachability. And the first thing that I just wrote down as I start doing this is how I work, or how God works with me, is all wrapped up in a hunger to learn and to grow. And that hunger demonstrates humility, which is, ta-da, are you ready for this? It's a posture of meekness. Now, as soon as that came to me like that, I thought, well, let me look up meekness in the dictionary and find out what it is. I have this thing about me that I always like to find out what is the meaning of something, because sometimes our perception of what something means is skewed. And if our perception is skewed about something, we're going to make some assumptions that will be incorrect and base decisions on that, and then end up bombing and wondering what happened. So I went right to the dictionary to find out what is meekness, because that's a posture of meekness is demonstrated when we have humility and teachability. So it means that we're humble, and it means that we're patient, especially under provocation from others, when we're being provoked or when something is coming up against us. And I thought not only people can come against us, but we ourselves can come against ourselves, yes. And we also can be provoked by circumstances, right? Because they're not working out in the way that we would like them to work out. But anyway, this hunger demonstrates then humility, which is a posture of meekness. So especially when we are being provoked by life, by circumstances, by all those things, and we stay humble and patient in the midst of that, woo, that is a spirit of meekness, a posture of meekness. It also meant in the dictionary that we are gentle and kind, and we exhibit modesty. So I thought how this spirit of meekness has been so lost in our world today. then I was immediately reminded of that scripture in Numbers chapter 12, so I went and looked it up, where it said that Moses was the meekest man in all the earth. So in understanding the situation, his brother and sister, Aaron and Miriam, had come up against him, and they weren't happy with the way he did some decisions in his life. And so as a result of that, they came up against him really strongly and provoked him. But he exhibited patience and humility in the midst of their provocation, in the midst of their anger, and he just remained calm and cool and collected and put himself before the Lord. And you know what happened? God himself, sorted out Miriam and Aaron, kind of harshly in a way. You know, there's a lesson for us today. This world, the spirit that's in the world today, keeps trying to stir the pot and get everybody all upset and angry and spewing out hatred and all these other kind of things against everybody and everything. Oh my goodness. Don't buy into that. Put on a spirit of meekness and do like Moses did and just give that to God and let him sort it out. Whatever injustice is done, God can take care of it so much better than we can. And then that way we keep ourselves clean and we're not getting all toxic. You know, I read posts that people make, hearts and flowers, that's worth hearts and flowers for sure. I see people make posts on Facebook where they just start going off on different people and saying things that are like, you're inviting all that toxicity into yourself, into your own mind, into your own heart, into your spirit. So you're just damaging yourself and the enemy wins. He's like, woohoo, I got me another one to get all involved in this toxic brew that I'm creating. So let's not fall for that. Let's put on a spirit of meekness, a posture of meekness, because that demonstrates humility and a teachability. Then, Numbers chapter 16, again, Moses demonstrated his meekness. Now, just instead of Aaron and Miriam coming against him, all the people that he was leading out of Egypt into the promised land, they were all upset with him. Have you ever had everybody upset with you? Well, in this case, Moses then, instead of railing back at the people and getting involved in the toxicity, he just went before the Lord and lay before God in total surrender to God, like, you need to work this out because I just can't do anything about it. And that humility, our posture of meekness, really is what brought Moses so much stature in the eyes of God. Woo, that's so powerful. Because why? He surrendered everything to God. That's faith in action, isn't it? So humility and teachability is wrapped up in a hunger to learn and to grow. And that hunger to learn, to grow, to keep increasing in our lives demonstrates humility, which is a posture of meekness. Then, interestingly enough, some of you are quickly on the draw here and you're thinking right along with me. Matthew chapter 5, verse 5, where Jesus himself said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Ooh, there must be really something to this posture of meekness if it could bring us into position, hi Brother Ray, bring us in position to inherit the earth. So meekness is the opposite of pride, isn't it? It's the opposite of a know-it-all attitude, or who do you think you are to tell me this, that, and the other? Or, you know, when I was a kid, now that was eons ago, right? But when we were young and, oh man, the economy of that day was so different. I mean, we're talking almost 70 years ago, so a lot has changed since then. But if you got a piece of gum to chew on, that was such a treat. And you would chew that gum for days on end, and at night you would put the gum on the bedpost so that the next day, hi Sister Dolly, so that the next day you could pick up that gum and chew it some more. And so we would call that second and third and fourth day gum ABC gum. It's already been chewed. I know that sounds really strange, but sometimes we have that attitude when people are teaching us something or sharing something. We have an attitude of, already know that. That's ABC food to me. You know, I've already been there, done that, got 12 t-shirts. And that is a position of pride, isn't it? So we want to take off that cloak and put on the garments of humility, that posture of meekness, because it has great value in the sight of God. So much so that Jesus drew attention to it and said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." So it means that there's a position or a posturing of ourselves where we don't put ourselves above one another, but we recognize and honor one another above ourselves. That's a posture of meekness. So to be they that will inherit the kingdom, that means that we don't get easily provoked when we're challenged. Woo! Thinking more highly of ourselves, but we stay humble and in a spirit of meekness, staying teachable so that we can progress in this life. So I was thinking about some of the things that have almost caused me to pull all my hair out the last couple of years, and just that opposition of circumstances coming against yourself. A couple of years ago, there was just this hunger rising up in me that I just wanted to do things different. And so I began to invest a lot of finances and time and energy and money into purchasing courses and softwares and programs and things like that, so that I could put all my signature training that I've been doing for 38 years into online courses in this online frontier, which was a new frontier for me. It's pioneering a new thing. And that required so much investment of my time and my money and my energy and my mental abilities to stretch so that I could grow and become a bigger blessing to people in the world and to increase my knowledge and experience as well. And there were many a days in the last couple of years where I just went, ah! Have you ever been there? Oh! And there were even times I pulled out the age card, you know, like, hey, I'm 70 years old, you know, enough already. It's time to just sit in the rocking chair. But no, there's something intrinsically in me that forces me to keep going and growing and learning and applying what I'm learning so that I can also be a better person and be a blessing to other people on a larger scale. And so we don't want to lose that, because that actually is a posture of meekness, which is great in the sight of the Lord. And Jesus said, they who are meek, or who are able to handle themselves in the face of great opposition, they shall inherit the earth. Woo! So that's a worthy goal, isn't it, for us to attain to? I get excited just talking about these things. So if we follow the example like with Moses, and also like with Jesus himself, yielding things and taking issues to the Lord, rather than to verbalizing and putting all that out there in a public way to keep toxicity flowing, but we just take that which is done and we take it to the Lord and surrender it to him and let him sort it out. You know, there's an example that I use a lot of times about mud enveloping a rock. You know, when people throw rocks at you or harsh words at you that be like a rock, if you act like a plate glass window and those harsh words come at you and you have the opposite of a posture of humility and teachableness and meekness, and you're like a plate glass window, like, you know, bless God, I'm all this and I'm all that, and I've got this title and that title, and I'm this and I've done that and I've been there and I've seen this. You're like a plate glass window. Then when somebody throws harsh words at you, that's going to smash that window, isn't it, into smithereens. And not only will you be damaged and crushed, but all the spattering of that glass can damage a lot of other people. And that's what happens in our world today when we are so vocal with all the negative stuff. We are like plate glass windows going around and causing damage everywhere, which is the opposite of a spirit of meekness and humility and the ability to grow. So if we would yield these things to the Lord, then we would be like a mud pond. When a rock or harsh words are thrown into it, we just slurp that up and there's no damage done. We forgive the offense. Thanks for the hearts and flowers. We forgive the offense. We release it. We let it go. And there's no damage to us or to anyone else. Woo! That is so powerful. So to be teachable then requires a spirit of meekness or humility, a desire and a hunger and a push in us to go forward purposefully, to learn, to grow, to do it different, to pay the cost to grow. And it always costs to grow. It costs us our own personal comfort zone, our own personal status quo, the way we've always done it, the way we think about things, to change our mindset. That always costs a lot, doesn't it? Yes. Oh, but that's a spirit of meekness at work. And Jesus said, blessed are those, the meek, for they, I want to be one of those theys, right? They shall inherit the earth. So on the other hand, if we flip that coin, then we recognize that our growth is stunted when we are shut off from learning and a willingness to be challenged to do it different, to apply and move outside of our comfort zone. All of that then is the opposite, and we actually stunt our own growth and become a smaller person rather than a larger than life person, full of power and full of life and full of joy and full of peace. So to always be pushing ourselves to learn and to invest the finances, invest the time, invest the energy in whatever it takes to do it different so we can have different results, that comes from a spirit of meekness, which is great in the sight of the Lord. Woo! That's fantastic. And when circumstances or people come against you to try to stop you or hinder you or to give you a hard time, even some people just enjoy giving people a hard time. They're on a power trip of some sort. When we will just respond in a spirit of meekness and have patience and be humble and be kind in the midst of their onslaught or in the midst of opposing circumstances that are coming against you, making you feel like you could never attain this or that. When you just surrender all of that to the Lord and then just keep moving ahead with kindness, with gentleness, and with a can-do attitude, you're going to progress. When I look back from 2 years ago, how much I've changed and grown, it's massive. Probably, I've had a lot of big growth spurts in my life, and hopefully you have too. But probably I could have to say, on a personal level, I feel like the last 2 years has been some of the biggest growth spurts of my entire whole existence. And I just thank God for that, because it feels so good to be fully alive. And that's what being teachable is all about. We learn new things, we grow, we come into other levels of productivity and of progress and of helping other people. And it's just fantastic. Now in Philippians chapter 4, verse 5, there's another verse that goes along with this, which is really pretty special. The Apostle Paul said, let your moderation, or let your meekness, be known unto all men, because the Lord is at hand. So in other words, God is right there, involved in the whole thing. So we don't need to get our britches all in a twist and get all uptight about opposing circumstances, opposing people, opposing spiritual things that are taking place. But we just stand there in that spirit of meekness, and we just carry on with kindness and gentleness and an eagerness to learn and grow from the experience and to push past the opposition and get to the other side, because after all, we're overcomers, right? Greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world. So we have that overcoming spirit in us that wants to push us forward past opposition. So in order for us to have different results, to be a better person, to be able to make a bigger difference for the good of mankind, it's going to require of us a humility and a posture of meekness and a continued hunger to grow, which comes out of a teachability posture where humility and teachableness is what positions us for that spirit of meekness. So those two words, when I woke up this morning, have really built a bonfire in my heart. As you can tell, I'm very excited about it. Now there's another translation, the Wuest translation, and when it shares Philippians 4:5, it says something really special there. It says, "Let your sweet reasonableness, your forbearance, your being satisfied with less than your due, become known to all men, for the Lord is at hand." And you know, God keeps good books. And sometimes we feel like, for all the effort and energy and whatever I put into this, that, and the other, I don't feel that I've attained or received all that I should have, could have, would have, in my estimation. Surrender all of that to the Lord and be all right with that, because God keeps good books and He will always bring you out victoriously down the road. It might happen now, but it might happen down the road. But He never forgets what we have done in His name. And it'll always come back to us. Thank you for that. Wow. It will always come back to us and multiplied. There have been so many different specific times in my life that I can pinpoint where it seemed like we were getting the short end of the stick in a big way. And yet down the road, that will be returned back to us many times over, because I believe we surrendered it to the Lord. We stayed sweet in the situation. We didn't allow ourselves to get bitter and toxic and, dish out harsh words or throw rocks or stones back on others, but we stayed in a spirit of humility. And in that, then God was able to cause us to inherit the earth in those situations. So I'm excited about this little teaching today. I really hope it was a blessing to you to be humble, to be teachable, to fan the flame on our hunger to learn and to grow, and to be willing to invest finances to grow, be willing to invest energy to grow, be willing to invest hard work to grow. It will always pay great dividends. And to stay meek and humble in the midst of everything that's going on, that we can do with the Spirit of Christ within us as we surrender ourselves to God and let Him sort things out on our behalf. We shall inherit the earth. So as we just stay in the presence of the Lord with these things that come against us, and we keep pushing forward no matter what it costs us, in our comfort zone, in our status quo, in our mindset, no matter what it costs us, you push through and persevere on those things that God has dropped in your heart for you to accomplish, and go after it with all that you've got. And you will get to the other side. You really will, if you keep on keeping on. But yes, there will be trials and opposition. Hallelujah. We should even actually welcome that, because when trials and opposition come, and we welcome that and say, bring it on. I have a saying that I stole from the Rocky movies, Sylvester Stallone, when he was in that one big fight with that one guy and he was getting pummeled. And he goes, come on, come on, come on. My mother can hit harder than that. And he baited him to just give him some more opposition, right? Because, when life has given us that opposition, just say, come on, bring it on. My mother can hit harder than that. And just keep pushing through in a spirit of meekness, because that humility and that teachability, that hunger to learn and to grow and to do whatever it takes to get to the next level, whatever it costs, financially, energy-wise, learning-wise, changing the way we think and do things in order to increase and abound, woo! It's going to pay off in big dividends. We're going to be a better person as a result. And as Jesus said in Matthew 5, blessed are the meek, for they, and I want to be one of those theys, they shall inherit the earth.